I'm gonna go ahead and start my video here. Say hi, my name is Jeanie. Just wanted to give everybody a minute here to pop on and join. So today we are doing playing with poetry. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Hi, Lily. Hi, Aubrey. Welcome, you guys. Shout out to everybody that's on. Hi, Ethan. Okay, good. So I'm just going to jump right in. The first thing I want to do, raise your hand if any of you guys have been in my poetry or another poetry class so far. I'm just interested if you guys have. Okay, so we got a couple hands raised here. Okay, great. Well, welcome back. And then for most of you guys, this is going to be a new look at this, or this is going to be a brand new topic. So probably you've heard, hi, April, welcome. Probably you guys have heard the word poem before, but we're going to start with a really simple definition for what a poem is. So does anybody want to type into the Q&A what they think a poem is or what poetry is? I'd love to hear from you guys. So go ahead and type that in there. I have an answer here from Aubrey. And she says, do we need a book? No, you don't. I'm going to be reading to you guys. So I'll be reading the poems and you guys, I'll show you pictures as we have them. And we'll do it that way. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in here. So I'm going to read here from my phone. I have it down here. And it says, poetry is a kind of writing that tries to stir a reader's imagination or emotions. Okay. So we know so far that it is a kind of writing, right? So poems are written and we read them out loud a lot of times, but plenty of people just read poems. They read books, poems, and they are meant to be art. Okay. So they're meant to be beautiful or inspiring or to make you feel a certain way. And they're meant to get an idea from the person who wrote it across to the person who is reading the poem or hearing the poem. Okay. So that's what we're trying to do when we write poetry or when we read poetry. And here's the next part of it. The poet does this by carefully choosing and putting together the words for their meaning, sound, and rhythm. So I got a couple of people here who said that poems rhyme. Now that's totally true. A lot of poems do rhyme, but they don't always rhyme. So there are definitely times when poems, you'll hear a poem that doesn't rhyme. So it can be that it rhymes, which is when you have like, hey, say. So you have two sounds that kind of match a little bit, or part of it matches. So we're going to read a poem right now. This is the first poem we're going to read, and it's actually written in a book form. So I'm going to go ahead and read this book, and we're going to talk about the poem a little bit after I finish reading it, okay? I Carry Your Heart With Me by E. Cummings. So that's the name of the person who wrote the poem, and that person is called a poet. So if you write a poem, you're called a poet. Okay. I carry your heart with me. I carry it in my heart. I am never without it. Anywhere I go, you go, my dear. And whatever is done by only me is your doing, my darling. I fear no fate, for you are my fate, my sweet. We're going to go back in a minute and talk about what that word means. I want no world, for beautiful you are my world, my true. And it's you are whatever a moon has always meant. And whatever a sun will always sing is you. Here is the deepest secret nobody knows. Here is the root of the root and the bud of the bud. This picture kind of goes like this. Can you guys see that? There we go. And the sky of a tree called life, which grows higher than soul can hope or mind can hide. And this is the wonder that's keeping the stars apart. I carry your heart. I carry it in my heart. What did you guys think about that poem? Yeah. Okay, so a couple people said most of the time poems rhyme. That's absolutely true. Most of the time they do. Well, I would say it depends on what type of poetry you're reading. So it can rhyme. That's totally true. And let's see. We got a lot more people that joined in. So welcome, you guys. I hope you heard some of that. Um, Alette, I don't know if I said your name right, says it was beautiful. I agree. This is one of my favorite poems. So we're going to break it down a little bit and talk about this poem just a little bit. Okay. So I carry your heart with me. What I want to specifically talk about first is how this person, the poet who wrote the poem, wrote with words in a way that wasn't just saying what he meant, right? So the first part, I carry your heart with me, I carry it in my heart. So obviously, in reality, this person doesn't have another person's heart inside of his body, but we can kind of get the idea, and this picture kind of helps too, that this person loves this other person so much that it's as if they have their heart inside of them. I have two people who have their hands raised, so I'm going to go ahead and check in and see. If you guys have a question, just go ahead and type it in the chat. That's the easier way for me to make sure that I get your questions answered, okay? I've got a couple people here. Ethan says, good, I like it. And Let says, I said your name right. Great, I'm glad I did. You don't need a book, so we're just gonna go through this again. Here's another part that I really love that is, I think, a really beautiful way that the poet tried to put together. Oh, I said I was gonna come back. I fear no fate. Does anybody know what the word fate means? You can type it into the chat if you, or the question and answer. But fate is when you have an idea that the way that things are going to turn out or what's going to happen in the future is already set by something. Like you could think God made the plan, or that there was already a written plan for our lives. And fate is that what's going to happen to us that we don't control. It's just, it's going to happen no matter what we do. That's going to happen. And that's called fate. And some people believe in that. So he's saying, I fear no fate, for you are my fate, my sweet. So what he's saying here is, I don't fear anything happening to me. There's nothing that I am afraid of, because you are my fate, because I have you and I love you. And so therefore everything is, that's right. Somebody said fate is what happens to you. What's going to happen? It's destiny. That's right. So this person is saying that no matter what happens, he's not afraid because he has this other person. So you can say it like that. You can say, I'm not afraid because I have you, and that makes me not feel afraid. But instead of saying it like that, the poet arranged the words in a way that makes us feel a really beautiful feeling, right? He says, I fear no fate, for you are my fate, my sweet. So that's one area where we can really see how he used the words in a way that is poetry and not just regular words. Here's another one that's really cool. This is one of my favorite lines. Lily, if I see you have, there's your hand raised, so go ahead and type a question into the chat. You said the poem is good. I like it too. This is one of my favorite poems. Nandan, if I said that right, you like the poem too. That's awesome. Okay, cool. So this is one of my favorite lines. There's a lot in this poem that I think are really beautiful. And here it says, it's you are whatever a moon has always meant. What do you guys think that means? And it's you are whatever a moon has always meant. So what I like to think, I'm just going to go ahead and jump in here. I'm going to say that human beings have been looking up at the moon for a very, very long time on this planet, right? And they've probably wondered for a lot of that time, what is that moon? Where does it go? Where does it come from? Why does it get bigger? Why does it get smaller? Right now, we know why those things happen. But for most of the time that humans have been looking at the moon, they probably didn't know. And so this poet is saying that this person who he loves very much is whatever a moon has always meant. So whatever you think that means, another really cool part of poetry is that I could think that means something totally different than you, and neither one of us is wrong, right? We're just getting a feeling about how much this man loves this other person. The other thing that's really interesting is we don't even know, is this person his mother? Is it his wife? Is it his daughter? We don't know, but we can take the poem and we can think about someone and wonder to ourselves, is there somebody that I love this much? Is there somebody I feel this way about? I loved that answer. That was a really good answer. Let's see who said that. There was somebody who typed in here, you are what the moon is there for. I love that. That was Isis. Yeah, that's great. You are the light at night. That's what Alette says. That's absolutely true. It could be either. See, those are different answers, but they're both right. Here's another one that's really, really beautiful. And whatever a sun will always sing is you. So obviously the sun doesn't go around singing. We know that. We know we look outside, we see the sun, it's not really singing. But a lot of people, sunshine makes them feel very happy. It makes things grow. It's warm. And so we can imagine that the sun is happy and singing, and this person is saying that the person he loves is whatever a sun will always sing. Whatever a sun will always sing is you. That's another really interesting thing. He didn't say, you are whatever a sun will always sing. He said it in a different way because he's trying to get a certain rhythm to his words. If the sun were to sing, it would be for you. I love that. That's absolutely true. Yeah. So when we read the poems, we really want to feel how the movement of the words goes. You know, you want to kind of read it slow and with a certain way so that you can feel the poem as you read it. And because it is going to have some kind of rhythm, even if it doesn't rhyme, like this poem doesn't really rhyme as much, but it does have a way that it feels when you're reading it. And whatever a sun will always sing is you. And here's another really cool one. Aubrey says, you are my sun. Yeah. Here is the deepest secret nobody knows. Here is the root of the root and the bud of the bud. That's another really cool one. What type of poem is this? Isis is asking. This is just a standard poem. It doesn't have any specific kind or title. But that line is another really good one that talks about you hear the rhythm to it. Here is the root of the root and the bud of the bud. It's almost a little bit like music, but it doesn't have music in the background, but you can kind of feel the beat of the words as they come out. And so this person is talking about, right now, he's talking about the root is where a plant gets its richness from. It's where it gets its like food from, right? But what feeds the root? So he's saying the root of the root and the bud of the bud, like the things that are the very beginning, the very start of something, what comes before those? And that's what this person's love is to him. And this is one of the most famous lines of the poem. And this is the wonder that's keeping the stars apart. This is the wonder that's keeping the stars apart. So interesting. It's an interesting line. I think it could mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. To me, I think about how I feel when I look up at the night sky and I see all the stars, and I just feel really like moved by how beautiful they are. And so when I read this line in the poem, I think about how magic the stars are and how wonderful they are to look at. And I think about how he feels like this person is what puts the stars there, or what keeps them there and keeps them from falling down or disappearing. So that's what I think this, but if you guys have a different idea of what that line means, I'd love for you to type it into the chat, or yeah, tell me what you think that line means. And then this is really interesting. He ends the poem with the same way that it started. So he ends with, I carry your heart. I carry it in my heart. So that's the same as the first line. I carry your, well, it's not exactly the same. It's pretty similar. I carry your heart with me. I carry it in my heart. So that is a very famous poem by E.E. Cummings, and it's called I Carry Your Heart with Me. Okay, so there's a little picture there, and you guys can, it's what makes the stars so close and far away. That's right, exactly, yeah. So I wanna know, did you guys kind of feel something from that? Did that make you feel a certain kind of way? Did you get an idea of how much this person loves the person he's talking about in the poem? Just go ahead and raise your hand if you felt like anything, like when you look at a really beautiful picture, or you look at or watch a really awesome movie and you feel a certain kind of way. Did you see how a poem, I got a lot of raised hands here, a poem can make you feel a certain way? Alan says, yes, definitely. It can make you feel a certain way, and that's not always happy. some poems are really sad and some poems are exciting. We're speaking of exciting poems, we're going to read the next little bit here. So this is, again, I'm reading on my phone here. It says, one thing that makes poems different from other kinds of writing is the way they are put together. The words of a poem are put together in lines and groups of lines. For example, here's the first part of the poem From a Railway Carriage about an exciting train ride by Robert Louis Stevenson. So we're going to read just this first part. Faster than fairies, faster than witches, bridges and houses, hedges and ditches. Hedges is another word for a bush. And changing along like troops in a battle, all through the meadows, the horses and cattle, all of the sights of the hill and the plain fly as thick as driving rain, and ever again in the wink of an eye, painted stations whistle by. So you can definitely hear in that there's a kind of a pattern to how the sound feels. So that's something we're going to look for in poems, okay? Yeah, I've got a comment here. It says, I think he probably loved that person very much. He took the time to make her a poem and show how much he cares. That is true. A lot of poems are about love. And Aubrey says, I feel happy. That's awesome, Aubrey. I love that you like that poem. Cattle is another word for cows, usually cows that we raise. Let's go through that and make sure there's no words that you don't understand. So faster than fairies, faster than witches, bridges and houses, hedges and ditches. So hedges are like bushes, usually that line the edge of something, like an edge of a field or edge of like a farm. And ditches are when they dig little scoops of earth out, usually to protect things from coming in or things going out. And charging along like troops in a battle. So obviously he's talking about the train is charging down the tracks like people in like soldiers in a war. And all through the meadows, the horses and cattle, so cattle being big groups of cows raised for their meat, all of the sights of the hill and the plain. Plain is large, flat, open land. Fly as thick as driving rain. So driving rain is an expression of rain coming down really hard. And ever again, in the wink of an eye, painted stations whistle by. So I'm going to go ahead and see here. I think I got everybody's questions, but yeah, that's a good one. So I'm going to read another one now. It's really short. I'm going to hold it up so you guys can see the picture here. It's this one. It's called The Sun Has a Tail. The sun has a tail that reaches under the earth and tickles seeds. That's what grandmother once told me. She says things grow in laughter. So here's a picture and it has the seeds laughing and the sun is putting his tail down there and tickling. So again, this is a really good example of poems don't always have to rhyme. There's really not much here that rhymes. It's also very short, but it does get an idea across to us, right, about this person, Emmanuel de Pascale, who wanted to talk about how he feels about the sun coming out and making things grow. So I'm going to read it one more time. The sun has a tail that reaches under the earth and tickles seeds. That's what grandmother once told me. She says things grow in laughter. And I think that's just kind of a fun thing to think about. Things grow in laughter. What does that mean? What is that? Is that true? Do things grow in laughter? So that's kind of another thing is sometimes you can read a poem and you can be like, I don't really agree that things grow in laughter. Or you can be like, that's a cool thing to think about. What makes things grow? What makes us happy? Do we grow more when we're happy? Okay, good. So we're gonna go on to another poem here. I'm gonna hold it up just so you don't have to read the words, but just so you guys can kind of see the pictures. I'm trying to hold it so you can see the pictures pretty well. Hopefully you can do that here. Okay, so this poem is called Afternoon on a Hill. So I'm going to do two things. I'm going to read it through and stop with any words that might not be super easy to understand. And then we'll go through and we'll read it again at the end and talk about the different parts, okay? Yes, that's a great answer. I think it's catchy. It means when flowers or plants grow, it makes us happy. I agree. And I think springtime is really a beautiful, happy time. And I think when the sun is out after a long winter, that it's kind of true that the sun makes us feel really happy. And so I think that is a great take on that poem. Okay, Afternoon on a Hill. I will be the gladdest thing under the sun. So glad is another word for happy. So if you say the gladdest thing under the sun, it's like saying I will be the happiest thing under the sun. I will touch 100 flowers and not pick one. I will look at cliffs and clouds with quiet eyes, watch the wind bow down the grass and the grass rise. It might be bow. I'm not exactly sure how you say that word, but either way, what she's talking about is how when the wind blows, it kind of flattens the grass and it like kind of makes it ripple and then it comes back up. A cliff is when you have like a long edge to something and it drops off really fast down to a lower part, usually water, but sometimes other. Alette says that springtime's hot here. Yeah, it's not always beautiful. I used to live somewhere where it was very hot in the spring too. Okay, and when lights begin to show up from the town, I will mark which must be mine and then start down. So I get the idea that Kiosha says you have a hand raised. I'm not sure if you have a question, but go ahead and put that into the Q&A if you do have a question, okay? I get the idea that this poet, right? Poet is somebody who writes a poem, was sitting on a hilltop and was feeling like the world was a really beautiful place and wrote this poem and just wanted to capture or remember how she felt when she was sitting on that hilltop on that beautiful day. So I'm going to read it one more time, and then I want you guys to listen to see if there's any rhymes that you hear, okay? Afternoon on a hill. I will be the gladdest thing under the sun. I will touch 100 flowers and not pick one. I will look at cliffs and clouds with quiet eyes and watch the wind bow down the grass and the grass rise. And when the lights begin to show up from the town, I will mark which one must be mine and then start down. So raise your hand if you heard any rhymes in there. Kiosha, a cliff is when you have, I've got a lot of hands raised. That's right. This is a poem that rhymes. So some of the ones we've been reading haven't been rhyming. First two didn't rhyme. This one definitely has some rhymes to it. A cliff is a edge of land and then it drops off really suddenly to a lower part. Sometimes there's water underneath a cliff and sometimes there's not. So when she's talking about looking at cliffs, you can kind of sort of see one here in the picture. There's like a drop here. When the edge of the land drops down, that's called a cliff. So yes, we have a rhyme in each one: sun and one, eyes and rise, town and down. So this poet did make rhymes in her poem. What did you guys think of that? Oh, I've got one here. It says, it means when water is rushing, the sun is shining, and the wind is blowing, the flowers are blooming, the person is trying to say the world is a peaceful place. I agree, totally. I think that what I got from that message, from that poem, the message that I got was just the feeling of when you're out in nature on a beautiful day and you just feel really happy because of how beautiful things are. Okay, good. Yes, we got some good rhymes in here. Awesome. You guys definitely got all those rhymes. Okay, good. So let's see. We're gonna go on. Let me just check and see how we're doing on time here. Okay, good. So now we're gonna go on to this one, which is a really fun book. This person is, if you ever get the chance to get this book, A Light in the Attic, it's really, Isis says, really pretty. It has a peaceful feeling to it. I agree. I think that poem has a really peaceful feeling to it. So one of the things that you can do, you guys, is when you are feeling a certain kind of way, or you're feeling happy or even sad, you can, oh, that reminds me, there's another sad one in here I wanted to, not really sad, but another one I wanted to read to you before we go on. There's funny poems, there's sad poems, there's ones that make you think about the weather or seasons. Let's see if I can find it. But I was gonna say is that you can try to write a poem. Writing a poem is really just about using words to capture how you're feeling in a certain moment and get other people to feel that too. So that's a really fun one. When you're having some big emotions, just go ahead and write it down and try to write it in a way that's going to get people to feel the things that you feel. All right. I can't find the one that I was thinking about, the sad one, but there is one more that's really fun from this book that I can read. This is a funny poem. Okay. I had a little brother and I brought him to my mother. And I said, I want another little brother for a change. But she said, "Don't be a bother." So I took him to my father. And I said, "This little brother of a, sorry, and I said, this little bother of a brother is very strange." But he said, "One little brother is exactly like another, and every little brother misbehaves a bit," he said. So I took my little bother from my mother and my father, and I put the little bother of a brother back to bed. So um, this book is really good and has lots of good poems in it. But what do you guys think of that poem? It's kind of a funny poem about a big brother talking about his little brother and how he feels about him. Did you guys get the idea that he likes his brother or that he doesn't like his brother? What do you guys think? Go ahead and type it into the chat and let me know. Does the poet want us to feel that he loves his brother so much and that he thinks his brother is the best thing ever? Or does the poet want us to feel how annoyed he is with his brother and how annoying little brothers are? Yeah, Kyosha, that's right. He doesn't really like his brother. He's feeling, oh, there was a word in here you guys might not know, bother. So that comes from like, don't bother me or bothering. So if you say somebody's a bother, it means that they annoy you or they're kind of, you just feel like, oof, good, get out of here. So he's definitely feeling that way. And he's going to his mom and dad. Yeah, he doesn't, Aubrey says he doesn't like his brother. Good. But do you feel like he hates his brother? Did the poet make you feel like he can't stand him and he wants something bad to happen to him? Or does you feel just the way most of us feel about our brothers or our sisters, which is that we love them, but they're kind of annoying. At least that's how I felt about my brother and sister when I was little. Yeah, exactly. Sandra says annoyed. Yeah, exactly. So that's just a good example of how you can have a poem and how it makes you feel. And you can get the idea of a way that somebody feels from a poem. Okay, good. So we're going to go on to the next one here. And okay, this one's called Somebody Has To. There's not much of a picture, so I'm just going to look at it and can't really see anything here. So it's called Somebody Has To. Somebody has to go polish the stars. They're looking a little bit dull. Somebody has to go polish the stars, for the eagles and starlings and gulls have all been complaining they're tarnished and worn. Okay, so we're going to start here. We're going to read it again afterward without stopping, but I want to stop. Eagles is obviously a kind of bird. A starling is also another kind of bird, and a gull is a kind of bird. So we're going to go ahead and read that again. For the eagles and starlings and gulls, those are all different kinds of birds, have all been complaining they're tarnished and worn. So tarnished means when you have like dirt or kind of wear on something, it's not looking very bright or shiny. They say they want new ones we can't afford. So please get your rags and your polishing jars. Somebody has to go polish the stars. So this person writes a lot of really funny poems. So obviously there isn't anybody in charge of polishing the stars. Alette says she just wrote a poem, so that's cool. You can definitely type it to me in the and Kyosha says, no, he still loves him, but kind of annoying, but he does not hate his brother. That's exactly what I got from it too. I think that's a great answer. It's like, I love you, but you're kind of annoying. Okay, good. I'm going to read one more poem. I think we just have, let me see, what time is it? Oh no, we've got some time left. Yeah, I think we are almost done because I think this one's kind of funny. I like this one. This one I read in my poetry class the other day and they really liked it. So here's the sitter, okay? It's called The Sitter. Mrs. McTwitter, the babysitter. I think she's a little bit crazy. She thinks a babysitter's supposed to sit upon the baby. That one was funny. Did you guys like that one? That one's pretty silly. I think that one is one of the, there's another really good one, which I forgot to put my thing on, but I wanted to end on that one. But anyway, I just wanted to make sure that you guys got the idea of what a poem was. So I'm going to go ahead and read that one more time. Let's go ahead and read the definition of poem. Oh, I've got a really great poem here. So it says this, the stars at night, the moon so bright, it makes me know I love you so. That's beautiful, Alette. Thank you for writing that. That's awesome. Okay, good. So we're going to go here back to poetry is a kind of writing. We're just going to go right back to the beginning and talk one more time about what poetry is. So poetry is a kind of writing that attempts to get the person reading it or listening to it to have some imagination or feel some emotions. And you do this by carefully choosing and arranging the words for their meaning, sound, and rhythm. Okay, guys, so I want to challenge you to go out there and write some poems. I would love if you would send them to me or send them to us. And we'd love to hear your poems. So if you have anything that makes you feel really excited or happy or sad, go ahead and send us a poem, write a poem about it and send it to us. And there's no wrong way to write a poem. So, all right, guys, thanks for joining. We'll see you next time. Bye.